Hi folks, as you can tell, it is around the holidays. David Zaritsky for James Bond Lifestyle Video Podcast. Welcome back. And today we've got a very special day. We actually have a James Bond holiday gathering. I do this about once a year with a lot of good friends and family, and today's no different. We just did some vodka tasting, and now we're actually going to learn some Texas Hold'em Casino Royale style from none other than Joe Darlington. So let's go in and check it out. So for those of you who are following the podcast, you probably recognize this gentleman, especially with a drink in his hand. Joe Darlington, bartender.
Have I ever not had a drink in my hand for these things?
Probably not. His liver looks like pate and you can spread it. But today we've got something a little bit different. We are actually going to be learning Casino Royale Texas Hold'em poker. For those of you out there that have played some poker, you maybe learned something new. And here's the real stakes on the table. Usually it's 150 million, but we can't afford that much today. The winner of this table actually wins an autographed edition of Being James Bond Volume 1, also authored in his sober state by Joe Darlington.
Oh, nice.
So let the games begin. By the way, there's been some copious amounts of vodka tasting before this. I'm just saying. That's an
It's going to be a little sloppy. Okay, turn them over.
Oh, that's called bluffing.
We got 2 queens. Oh, we got the ace. There we go.
Oh, nice.
All right.
For my luck.
That's your luck. Okay. Okay. You shuffle, right?
Yeah.
All right. That's you. If you want the person behind you, can cut the cards. Yeah. This one behind you.
Well,
Oh, you have 2 things.
Yeah. You can go ahead. Alright, so before we get too involved in this game, let's talk about the basics of poker. So we understand the basics of poker. If I deal 5 cards out between me and another player, the player with the best hand wins. And to wins means you get all the good chips. So what do you need to know? Well, what are the good hands? So the first hand, which is not actually a hand, would be the high card. If both players have nothing, the highest card is going to win. So the ace would beat whatever the other player has. Next one up, obviously, would be a pair. 2 of a kind is a pair. If you have a pair of kings, that's a pair. Next hand would be 2 pairs. If you have 2 of a kind and 2 of a kind, that's 2 pairs. That'll be a pair. Next hand would be 3 of a kind. 3 of a kind, or trip kings in this case, that will beat 2 pairs. Next hand will be called a straight. If you have a numerical sequence, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all in a row, that's called a straight. The next hand would be a flush. Flush is 5 cards of the same suit. They don't need to be in a numerical sequence, but if you have 5 hearts, that's a flush. Next hand up is a full house. If you have a pair and 3 of a kind, that's a full house. Next hand would be 4 of a kind. If you have 4 of the same cards, that's 4 of a kind. And the highest, of course, would be the straight flush. Numerical sequence all in a row, and the suits are the same. 10, jack, queen, king, ace, all of hearts, that is a straight flush. Now, of course, the numerical value will always trump. For example, let's say both players have a full house, the higher full house will win. Now, that's the gist of poker. All poker games sort of use the same hands. The best hand wins no matter what variation of poker you happen to be playing. Now, how does that relate in Texas Hold'em poker? Well, this is where you come in. I'm going to deal us both a game, and we'll see how it works from there. Okay, now this is going to be a totally random game. These are shuffled. I'm going to deal us both cards, and then we're going to go through a game. Now, before I deal the cards, we need to put out our blinds. In poker, there's betting. In Texas Hold'em poker, the betting is usually started off with blinds. If I'm the dealer, we go around this way. The player next to me is going to be the small blind. The player after that is the big blind. Now, the big blind is the minimum bet. Let's say the minimum bet is 10 chips. So the big blind puts in 10. The small blind will put in half the minimum bet, which in this case will be 5. Then we'll go around after we've dealt, and players will decide if they want to match the bet to stay in. Alright, now I'm going to deal everybody in. Let's pretend there's 6 players here, and you're player number 3. And I'm the 6th player. 2 cards, each player. Now at this point, this blind is already in, which means it now goes to you. If you decide you like your card, you want to stay in, you'll put up a minimum blind bet. Okay, now at this point, you know what your hand is. If you feel like it's a good enough hand to stay in, you have to make a bet. Now you have to make the minimum bet, which we said is 2 tips, 2 5 chips. You can raise it also. If you feel like it's something strong, you want to raise it higher, you can do that, or you can just fold. Okay, now our other players decided to go in. My card's okay, so I'm going to go in too. Now it still goes to the small blind. If he wants to stay in, he has to at least match the minimum bet. He already put 1, now he's got both. Now it goes to this player who's the big blind. If he decides he wants to check and not raise, he could just say check and he's good to go. At this point, the dealer will put all the chips in the middle, and we're good to go, and it's time to deal the flop. Okay, now first thing we do is burn the top card. That's what we call burn and turn. We discard the first card, the next one. That's a pretty impressive looking flop too. These are the first 3 cards, that's called the flop. Now based on these cards, we're going to do a round of betting, and then we're going to move on to the river. Okay, now player 1 and 2 decided to check. They didn't fold, they just decided not to bet. They can do that. Now it's up to you. You can check, or you can make a bet. Now at this point, you want to be looking at these cards, looking at your cards, and deciding what can I make out of those cards. Do you have maybe already there's a pair sitting down, but then again, that pair helps everyone else at the table too. Now, do you have something that gives you an advantage? If not, maybe check, or maybe you want to fold if somebody else bets. It's up to you. Okay, so again, we're going to burn and turn. Burn the first card, turn over the next card. Okay, now we have a 4. Now we're going to do a round of betting. So again, you want to look and see what's here. As we said, there's already a pair here. By the way, when there's a pair on the board, you know there's a potential full house. Okay, full house, you have to have at least a pair on the board to make a full house. You have to have 5 cards to make the full house. Now, again, look at your cards and see what you think. Player 1 has bet 10. The player 1 decided he wants to make a bet. He made a minimum bet of 10 bucks. Player 2 decided to match it. So now at this point, you need to make a bet to stay in. You can either call a bet or you can fold. Depends on how good you feel your cards are. Is there something you can make here? There's 2 hearts here, there's 2 diamonds here. Is there a possible flush? Can you do something with the aces? If you think you could possibly do something, you want to throw in. Okay, I'm going to move everyone's bets into the middle. Now it's time to burn and turn over our last card, which is a jack. Okay, now this is the last round of bets. Again, you want to look and see what possible hands can be made, what do the other players maybe have, and what have you come up with between your cards and what's here. So now we go around and do one last round of betting before we show our cards. Okay, now player 1 has bet twice the minimum bet. He put in $20. Player 2 has matched him. So at this point, based on what you think you have, based on the strength of your cards, do you want to bet, do you want to raise, or do you want to fold? And you're going to match the bet. Okay, the other 2 players have folded their cards. Now, all the chips go into the middle, and player 1's bet has been called. What does he have? Well, ace king. Now that means, with the other ace and the kings on the board, he's got himself a nice full house. Player 2 has a 4 and a 10, he has 1 pair, and you got a pair of jacks. Not bad, doesn't beat a full house, so this player wins.
It's feeling like it. It's been 10.
Just so you know, that's what you call tossing the not string bet. You call you want to put your bet in front of you. Okay, let the dealer put it in. Trust you, if you're ready, so you know.
I will see your 10 and raise.
Okay.
Don't sound crazy like that.
25. Nope. Okay.
Will you see my 25? Rudolph?
Alrighty. That's good.
check.
I'm smelling it, damn it.
Yeah, the best in MI6. Could you help me with that? It's a little bit. That's right, we're gonna throw the top on.
Now, what you just saw might have been a player who was bluffing, because it looks like he's got a little bit of a tell. Now, what is bluffing and what is a tell? Well, in Texas Hold'em poker, you have to have that poker face. You have to keep your cards to yourself, and you sometimes want to manipulate your other players to have them do what you want them to do, or they're doing that to you. So what are some good examples of some bluffs, and what are some examples of tells? Now look at this guy, for example. Here's a guy you don't want at your poker table. Now, he's got his hoodie on, he's got his sunglasses on, he's trying to keep his emotions, he's trying to keep a straight face. He doesn't want you to know what he's got. He's trying not to tip you off. Now, he's doing a pretty good job keeping his emotions to himself, keeping himself in check. But let's see if we can catch him, see if there's anything else he's doing that can tip us off as to what kind of a hand he might have. Let's see what he did right there. He was very quick to put his cards down. He put down a big stack of chips. He obviously wants you to think he's got a pretty good hand. Now, maybe he does, or maybe he just wants you to think he does. If he wants you to think he does, then obviously he wants you to fold because you think he has a better hand. So watch players who act stronger because maybe they really have a weak hand. Now look at that. Didn't seem like he wanted to bet, was really sort of, not sure, but he still put down 2 chips. Didn't have to. Maybe he wants you to think he's got nothing. So maybe he wants you to bet large. Again, your job here is to figure out what he wants you to do and then disappoint him. Now see what he did just then? As soon as I put the card down, he looked at his chips. Sometimes that means that he's got a good hand and he's already thinking about betting. I've been caught doing this myself. Oh, this time he's looking at my chips. That's another good sign that he might have a decent hand. If he's looking at my chips to see how much I can bet or how much he can get out of me, that might tell me he's got a decent hand. Ah, now there's the old familiar tell we all know. Keep an eye on other players, see if there's things that they're doing, if there's things they do every time the card gets turned, whatever. Just watch, keep an eye on their poker style. If they do something and they turn a card over and you realize they were just bluffing the whole time, then you know something. Just watch and see what players do to keep... Now, just a couple quick little rules of etiquette, and also some terms that you might hear when you're playing poker. One is, don't ever splash the pot. Splash the pot, let's say I'm going to make a bet, and I go like that. You know, instead of placing it in front of me, I just sort of toss it into the pot. The problem with this is the dealer can't tell. You could have thrown 3, you could have thrown 5. She can't really tell what you put in there. So be polite to the other people. Don't let them have to wonder if you're cheating or not. Throw them in front of you, stack them up, let the dealer move them to the center. So that's pretty much Texas Hold'em in a nutshell. Again, the most important thing is have a good time. It's a great way to spend a Friday night with your friends, Saturday night with your friends. So good luck, have fun, and see you next time.